Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel again. This is Kim Victoria. This is the fourth of my little series on making your own stencils, and I think I'm going to move on to a couple of other things now, but I wanted to show you all of the different things that I've been doing using different materials. So let's just dive in. I am definitely linking the other videos in this series at the playlist so that you can find them. And there's going to be a little card at the upper right hand corner so you could see how it all started. My original goal for doing this project was that I wanted some border designs on journal pages without needing to glue anything on or sew anything on, and to just dress up the journals. Let's go through what I have here quickly. Here is a super simple thing. I've been hanging on to these old day planner kinds of covers, thinking I'd use them in a journal, and they hasn't come up yet because they're really thick plastic, and I just haven't found a use for them. But I didn't want to let go of them, so they've got the holes in them, and I thought, well, there's a border. And when I line it up and then ink over the edge, let's move those out of the way a little bit more, and ink over the edge, I wind up with a border and a border. So it's almost like I've applied a piece of ribbon or something like that, and it comes out much thicker than if I was just going to ink the edges. Anyway, that's a use for something that, already has holes in it. You don't have to do anything to it. It's a piece of plastic. And it's a fun border. It could work with a lot of journals. The tools I am using, let me make sure to cover that. This is a permanent dye ink, and I used a small brush for this particular application. But I've been finding that other things work as well. The thing is that this is thick plastic, so it was really good to use a brush because I could really get into the little grooves. So there's that idea. Now I did this one in the previous video, which I will link, and I'll put a little card up there. So this is one of those border punches. That's this one. And I was thinking how delicate this border is when it's on a thin piece of paper. But if you make a stencil, look how many times you can use it. I do coat all of these stencils I'm making with Mod Podge or acrylic medium, and that gives them durability. So this was the punch idea. And I was able to ink through this. I used a brush on one side and a foam dauber on the other. And both worked beautifully. So that's the previous video in this series. Now how about those decorative scissors? We've all picked them up here and there, and they tend to go dull pretty quickly. Now I've tried it all. I've tried waxing, I've tried the foil recently. Well, I've picked them up here and there at thrift stores. And I finally just got fed up with a few of them and threw them away because there was no hope. But some of them work fine, but I have found they get dull quickly. So cut out a piece of cardstock and make a stencil. I used the Distress ink for this one and a brush. I've been trying different inks and different applicators, and this worked well. So there's that. This side I got a little bit too scrubby underneath and got a funky edge, but hey, it's a junk journal. That's fine. So on this side, I brushed away from the edge. That worked better. So, decorative scissors, make your own edge. So here are some more edge punches. And what I have also found with the edge punches is that they can be a bit finicky about what paper works well. And also, they create some of these are a very delicate edge. Take this one, for example. That's this punch. And on this lightweight cardstock, it worked great. Now when I did the Mod Podge on this, it tended to fill up these teeny tiny little holes at the top. So that is this one. And you can see how some of the holes kind of got filled in. I'll probably make another one on the other side, and that way I can make sure I don't plug up the holes. I tried to punch through them a little bit with an awl. But you know, this is still really pretty. And if this is on thin paper, these are very delicate edges. So I really like doing this kind of a stencil with these edge punches. Now on the other side of this piece of paper, we can see this one. So on this one, I was a little more careful not to Mod Podge too heavily into, into those little gaps. That's this edge punch. So I just picked these up here and there. All of these came from thrift stores, I must admit. And, you know, so I paid like $3 or something like that for them. But again, it's a very delicate kind of an edge when it's on just your thinner paper. So I think it makes a really lovely edge. So yeah, that's this particular group. And then I picked up these two that have a snowflake kind of pattern on them. So I hope that glare isn't too awful. Now in this one, I did this design first. So I punched it out on the same weight cardstock as all the others, Mod Podged it, and this one got broken a little bit. So I need to do another one. But I want you to see that even when it gets a little bit broken, it still makes a lovely edge. And this is super delicate. That's, you know, it broke. So this one I much prefer that it is a stencil rather than an edge punch because it is so delicate. And because they're similar, I put the other one on the other side of the same piece of cardstock. And this on thin paper, this is super delicate, easy to break. So I do again prefer to have it as a stencil, and it's very pretty, and this would be really nice in a winter kind of a theme. So that's those types of punches. So that's an option. I had never done it before, but I've been playing around and this is what happens. Oh, and one last note. For this particular inking, I used a foam dauber and some Distress Oxide, and this is speckled egg. The foam dauber worked great. All I needed to do was press. I did not rub, I didn't stroke. I just pressed, and the foam worked great. So if you have any foam daubers, all you have to do is press down on these super delicate designs, even through these tiny holes. It went through just fine. You do want to have a nice wet ink. So the last stencil idea that I have played with so far is just using our standard punches. And I have other scrap pieces that I experimented on, and then I did it on the cardstock. You can kind of see the sheen here, so this I always Mod Podge right away. And this is just a beautiful, beautiful punch. And again, I like how when I put the stencil on and I give it a little gap with the edge of the paper, I get a ribbon-like edge. I love that. And then all I have to do to get that last one is just slide it down and ink in the last one. Piece of cake. So that's really pretty. This is going to be nice in a nature journal. Do it with different colors for the autumn. It's going to be really lovely. It's really about experimentation. You know, everyone's got different punches, and so it's just about experimenting. I have these two flower stamps. So the first time I did it, I measured, I think it's about an inch apart, but you have to experiment. I thought maybe it would work alternating the big one and the small one, but I wasn't thinking it through so that I'd have them lined up, which is what I really wanted. So that was what I did here. But I found out that the little punch extends in deeper than I expected. So I based where I put this line on how far the little punch would go in. I measured it from this edge to the middle of the flower, drew the line, and oh, this is another kind of important tip. For me, I always punch upside down because that way I can slide this in and I can look for this line. It's kind of hard to see, but maybe you can see it a little bit. When I push it all the way in, you can see that, you can see the line that I drew. And that's what I based my punch on, was that line. And the same thing for the big one. Then I could just line this up with that line. And the reason I brought this out is because I do punch upside down. I use an old mouse pad because this little button really slides around on my table. But when I put it on this old mouse pad, there's more traction. And I also push down with a piece of wood. I slide the piece of wood over once I've got the paper in position, slide it over, and punch down. So that is super helpful. I did that in the previous video demonstration. So this is just a real simple way of seeing where you want to put your punch. And so of course that created this design. And I made sure to ink the edge so I get that ribbon-like effect. And I used a Distress Rusty Hinge, and for the dot in the middle, I used a pencil eraser. Super, super simple. So there's for that idea. So I hope that this has been a fun idea for you to see your various punches and edge scissors and just making your own stencils for borders. And of course they don't just have to be borders. I could use just one of these leaves and decorate a whole page, and I will definitely be doing that. So like on a master board or whatever. But I hope that this was helpful, and please let me know if you think this was a good idea and that you might use it. I would love to see some comments, and yeah, thanks for being here. Bye-bye.